Hi, everybody. My name is Zeb Wellborn, President and CEO of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today, I'm here with Frank Kenny. Frank Kenny has a long history in the chamber industry. He's somebody that I look up to, especially from a social media standpoint. He's done lots of really cool things for our industry and has been highly innovative in his approaches. So, Frank, I'd love to chat with you today. I got a couple of things. I think we're going to chat about social media and we're going to chat about some artificial intelligence and maybe a few
Cool.
other things. So with that, I would love to just, give you a brief an opportunity to introduce yourself, talk about your chamber background and kind of your experience in the chamber industry as a whole.
Very cool. Well, thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it, Zeb. And my background is I used to be a small business owner, very involved in the local Chamber of Commerce, kind of worked my way up from committees to being on the board. I was just elected chairman of the board. And then me and my brother had a falling out in our family business, and I was going to kill him and go to jail, which was an option, or do something else. But the CEO of our chamber quit right at the same time. And so the board said, rather than be chair of the board, how would you like to be interim president, CEO, keep the doors open for a few months? And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And once I got in there, I loved it because all of a sudden I have 12 years of being self-employed member and now driving the chamber. I had a ton of fun. I ended up staying for 4 years. Social media came along during that time. We were one of the very first chambers to do social media against the vociferous pushback. The board hated the idea. They just were adamant that it was a fad and I'll waste time and that our members will fight publicly. Like every fear-based thing you could imagine came out of that board meeting. But luckily, my chair of the board said, you know what, we got to innovate. We got to change with the times. We have to take a risk. And 18 months later, we had doubled the membership of that 45-year-old chamber. That opened doors for me to speak and teach at other chambers because that was during the recession of 2008 and we had doubled membership. So long story short, been on the road doing chamber consulting and speaking at conferences for the last 10 years, 11 years now, full time in our RV. We just go chamber to chamber, state to state. We sold our house because we were so busy. I was kind of like, rather than live in hotel rooms, let's just buy an RV and see the world and go from chamber to chamber. And it's been a lot of fun. So there's the background.
Yeah, no, I bet it has. And then, so where was your chamber that got you started in all of this?
North Mason, Washington, which is the Hood Canal area of the Olympic Mountains in Washington State. So just across the Puget Sound from Seattle in the kind of a rural, beautiful area just outside of the Olympic Mountains.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think you and I share similar experiences when it comes to like social media integration. Because I started my digital marketing business, which is what got me involved in my chamber. Actually, very similar to story to yours, where I was involved as a member. I was on the board. The board asked me to take it over in an interim capacity, and then ultimately ended up taking over and really enjoying it. But one of the things that I know from our chamber and just observing chambers from the outside is I know that the business world was highly involved, or at least the businesses that were growing exponentially were using social media at the time. And I would
Sure.
recognize that and realize that our chamber industry are those that were supposed to be kind of like the models of business prior, like we just weren't engaging on that platform. I think you know that I wrote a book on how to do social media marketing for golf courses, but
Yep.
whether it be golf courses or chambers or Rotary clubs, there's like missed opportunities that happen there. And I feel like you identified that earlier. Why do you feel like you identified that, whereas other people in chamber industry, your board, other members might not have been attracted to social media when it first came out? I had the exact same experience, just as an FYI, where I was talking with one of my general managers at a golf course. He's like, Zeb, this is a fad. This social media thing is going away. It's not going to be around much longer. And so I think I'm going to let you go. So that's kind of a conversation I had when I was working with the golf course early on. I'd love to hear how that came about for you.
I think it goes back to when I got out of college. I have a degree in finance, and I went to work for a mutual fund sales guy. And he showed me this library he had of Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and Tom Hopkins and everybody you could name if you were into professional development. And I dove into those cassettes and CDs. I mean, it's 8 tracks really, so vociferously. And I think those people really placed in my brain the lessons I needed to use later on in my life about when you see an opportunity or a trend, you got to take it. You have to stay positive even when other people don't believe. And I really credit all that professional development learning to like how I approach business and life today.
Yeah, and I feel like so. Anyways, I know that when I did get and I did take in that interim role and got in the CEO thing, I did join that chamber professionals. I always forget the actual name of it. Chamber professionals Facebook group. Is that
The Chamber Pros Community Facebook group.
Chamber Pros Community Facebook group? So I got in that early, and then I was thinking like I was th just like I guess you kind of did what I imagined, what I was thinking should be done in that industry, and so it's cool to see that that was already there and operating at a high functioning level. So you do a really good job at using social media to bring chamber pros together and highlighting the chamber profession and sharing best practices and stuff like that. Talk to me a little bit about how that came about, your chamber professionals group.
It's I'm always looking to innovate and like stay on the cutting edge, even the bleeding edge. I like to learn and then turn around and teach what I learn. And we started that Facebook group when we started our consulting business, so 2010. And if memory serves, we just it Facebook said we're gonna all have groups. I was already using a group called Ning at our chamber to allow our members to network with each other. I mean, this was way back in the day. I doubt Ning even exists anymore. Maybe it does. But anyway, when I saw a thing in the news or probably on the Twitter feed about Facebook groups are now available, same day, I opened that baby up and started inviting in chamber people. And I remember at one time, uh, we had 700 people in that Facebook group, and a chamber person reached out to me and said, "Do you realize state associations have 80 members, 120, maybe 200. You have 700 people. You're larger than all the state chamber associations. There's only a couple national chamber associations that had more members, and now we're at 12,000. I mean, so it's by far the biggest in the world. So first mover advantage. You gotta when you feel like this might be something, you gotta jump at it. You can't wait. If you wait, it'll pass you by. So
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Is there anything else that you feel like has hit that category since you've started down this path since 2010, let's say?
well, I tell you, it really goes back to 1999 when I was running the art gallery. My brother and I were so busy that we barely had a website. We had a website, but we really couldn't like maximize it. This is way before your time, youngster, because we had this was the .com boom. If you had a website and it had traffic, people would just throw money at you. And I remember my college buddies, with the computer science degrees, were living a high life because of that trend. And I was just too busy running. We had 4 art galleries in our little chain, and I was just too busy. And so, but I told myself I will never let another opportunity, a mega trend pass me by. And that's why social media, when it came along, I was just like, I had to do it, even though the board didn't want to, even though I totally risked my job. I mean, if it didn't work, I was fired. I guarantee you. And then digital marketing was a similar kind of thing. Is you can't just do social media. You have to do digital marketing if you expect to make any money. The sale happens through digital marketing. Social media creates the awareness and the know, like, and trust, but it doesn't close the sale. So we pivoted to digital marketing, and now it's AI. AI is going to trounce all prior trends.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. I know I want to get into that later for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about social media, like best practices, So I think I shared with you, I'm planning on speaking on this. I do speak on social media here locally and for my business and also through the chamber. Um, but I wanted to pick the brain of people that are doing it well in our industry and see what are the little nuggets and pieces that they could share on their insights on how to do social media well. So it's called
Yeah.
Social Media for the Win. Give me
Hmm.
some of your top tips on social media today. What are some of the top things that you're seeing that do well on social media?
I think I think what differentiates a chamber that's doing social media well from one that is not is one focuses on the social and the other's focused on the media. The chambers that think about like they have another media channel to where they can promote and sell. My biggest pet peeve in this industry might be when a chamber posts, they use their social media platforms to post that they're going to be closed Friday,
Yeah.
closed for the holiday. Nobody is on social media to see if the chamber is going. They don't. It's not a bulletin board to post flyers. It's a social platform to build relationships. And once you've built relationships, you earn the right. If you give, you get to get. So if you're social, and people know, like, and trust you, and know your heart's in the right place, and they know you care about the community, then they'll tolerate seeing a promotey post from time to time. But I would say the majority of chambers look at social media as an advertising platform that they just don't have to pay for. And so they promote. And rarely do they really use it to build relationships. And that's the biggest mistake I see is it's a mindset kind of thing. They should not be using social media as an advertising tool. You should use it as a relationship building tool.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice. I think I mentioned that same general manager that let me go from doing the social media at that golf course said the exact same thing. He's like, Zeb, I think I get social media. It's kind of like a bulletin board where you just post stuff on, upcoming things. And I was like, nope, that's not it. But well, good. Yeah, no, and that's something that I agree with, and that does. I don't want to say drives me crazy, but it's one of those things where you just see so many missed opportunities when people are using it that way. Okay, so
I
that's
can
that's
tell,
one.
if you don't mind, I'll tell a quick little
Yeah, please.
story. It's when we were one of the first five chambers, I'm pretty sure, in the world to use social media. There was nobody to go to for advice. And so when the board said, "All right, go ahead and use it," I used it as an advertising platform. I tried to promote our stuff. And it was just not working. Like I don't even know if they had algorithms back then so much, but it just didn't get any traction when we just posted advertising and buy our stuff or come to our event type stuff. And then I think it was Mari Smith back in the day, if you know who Mari
Yeah,
Smith, the queen of
yeah.
Facebook, was, about flipping it around and doing content marketing. And so I read everything I could get my hands on content marketing. And, it was all about, provide content for free up front that improves people's lives, that makes them laugh or smile, entertains them, educates them. It's all about giving, give. And then you earn the right to get. And once I switched to a content marketing model to where I didn't care about like trying to sell something or get a seat registration, what I cared about was trying to get somebody to be aware of our chamber, to like our chamber, to trust our chamber. And once we did that, people would drive like past four other chambers to come to our chamber's luncheon because they already knew us. They wanted to come and have fun and smile and laugh. And so that was the biggest deal. Content marketing, inbound marketing, that was the game changer.
So you mentioned give. Like one of the challenges I feel like people in the industry or people that are posting on social media, it's tough to grasp what give means. Like what are the type of things that you post where these are like valuable things or they're entertaining or they're things that are gonna build that know, like, and trust factor? Do you have any advice on what those things look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So if if you feel kind of guilty, like you're posting something where you're asking for something before you've given, you kind of feel it inside. I think it's like here I am just using it again to post something to where it's for me. You need to kind of flip it around to where how can I give? And you give by asking questions. People just they're floored when somebody asks them, where did you go to college? Or why did you start your business? Or what is your business? What charities or other organizations does your business support? You're asking a question just like you would in person if you were meeting for somebody for coffee. You wouldn't just talk all about yourself and your next event and what you're working on because that's just rude. But then people go on social media and do that exact same thing. And so you got to flip it around to where if I was with a person, what would I do? Where'd you go to college? What's your degree in? Tell me about your business. Why'd you start your business? People love to share things about them. Now they don't want to share things that they takes a ton of brain work and they got to go home and study and fill out. It's got to be kind of light and status building. When you ask somebody, where'd you go to college? That builds their status. They'll come out of the woodwork to answer that question. They'll also talk about like the weather or shared experiences. If your high school football team is doing really well and the chamber posts about what did you think of the game last night, you're going to get a ton of responses. Or did anybody catch the rainbow this like last night or whatever? Ton of responses. I've been seeing ones about this weather going on right now. People like a chamber in Maryland. I shared this in my newsletter. A chamber in Maryland posted about because they never get snow in Maryland practically, but they did then. Tons of responses. The Neo Show Chamber just posted this week about what river runs through such and such or park, what creek runs through such and such park, and they made it a multiple choice. Like 57 people came out of the woodwork to share their knowledge because it gives them status. They answer a question. So that's one of the main things I would tell chambers is ask questions because that gives you an opportunity to respond to the question, and now you're building a relationship. But it also builds community because other people start piggybacking on other member answers or community member answers. There's an amazing book out by Seth Godin called Tribes. Chambers are all tribes. And if you do what Seth talks about in his book, you will just it's kind of a night and day difference in the results chambers get when they flip it around and say, all right, how can I use social media to create awareness and build relationships rather than sell my stuff?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And then, I mean, you've kind of alluded to it, so thank you for sharing the give, give, give. Like, I would love to hear some examples of, like, let's start with chambers, because I know that you mentioned some just now that if they posted something that got some success. What do you feel like is something that you've seen that in a local chamber has leveraged social media for that's been wildly successful?
Well, Neo Show is a great example. I mean, they really are constantly coming up with new campaigns and getting people to engage. I think they probably built up their algorithm score to where they reach most of their community. Other chambers, because they post things that get no likes, no comments, no shares again and again and again and again and again and again, have basically poisoned their algorithm to where Facebook doesn't show their stuff to hardly anybody, or Instagram. All the platforms have these algorithms now. So as far as campaigns go, I would just say you are allowed to do some things that talk about your next event, but you better do at least 50% to 70% of posts to where you're just trying to reach people, get on their radar in a positive light, and build that know, like, and trust, and then engage. So,
Yeah, I think one that you mentioned some of the books you've read. I know like Gary Vaynerchuk came out with that jab, jab, jab,
yep,
right hook book. So
highly recommend that.
you
Yeah.
get little three jabs and then you hook to ask for stuff. So that's a good philosophy to follow for sure.
Bob Berg's series, The Go Giver, is also very, very good. If you people want to understand how it's so important, you gotta put wood into the fire before you can expect to get any heat.
Yeah.
And you got to give, give, give. That's just how life works. That's how relationships work. You have to make deposits in the relationship bank. And chambers that do that on a consistent basis, to where they're asking questions or sharing things about their community without being selly or needy or asking for anything, they just are just givers. They've got this momentum built up in their community where people are conditioned to engage. Like, getting them to engage once is the hard thing for chambers because people are used to scrolling by. If they know most of the chamber posts are commercial or advertisements, they're just going to scroll by. They get in a habit of scrolling by. Other chambers, most of their posts are relationship based. And so you get in the habit of answering the questions or contributing or looking at the comments and seeing what other people are commenting. And you build up that sense of community. There's almost nothing in the world more powerful than community. And so that's how social media should be used, or at least Facebook should be used for community building. And then you use your email marketing for asking for the sale.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background. So Bob Berger and I are actually friends. I did a podcast. This is back when I first started my digital marketing business called the Defining Success Podcast. So it was on the top of iTunes for a while. But I
Nice.
had Bob Berger on twice to talk about his book when it first came out. So
He's
that
a
was
good guy.
interesting comment there. How about in your chamber professionals group? You have I mean, you do a really good job at building that engagement. Is there anything that you do in there? You already mentioned kind of asking questions, but is there anything beyond that that you feel like you do really well in your group that we should highlight for some of our other chamber professionals out there?
Well, if the chamber, if you're watching and you run a chamber of commerce and you don't have a Facebook group, I think that's a missed opportunity. Everywhere we've traveled over all these years with me doing board retreats and visiting with chambers, working with staff, uh, every community has some Facebook groups that are not real healthy. They're pretty toxic. And the chambers complain that, yeah, there's a Facebook group, but they're all like toxic. We don't go in there. And that gives you an opportunity to have your own healthy Facebook group. But don't make it just your members. Make it for everybody. I'm trying to remember the name of the chamber that has, it'll come to me here eventually, but they have a Facebook group with almost 50,000 people in it.
Uh-huh.
Robbins, Georgia. And Warner Robins, Robbins Air Force Base or military bases down there. Anyway, because she made this group open to the public and managed it and kept it healthy and stopped the people from just constantly advertising in it to make it more of a community forum. Imagine having 50,000 people in your chamber's Facebook group, and those people are in different places in the sales funnel. Like some are just getting introduced to the chamber. They're at the top of the sales funnel. Kind of, they don't know what a chamber is or does, but at least they're in the group and they start seeing that the chamber cares about the community and wants to help business people be successful. And so it starts building that know, like, and trust. And then every once in a while, you put in the community some kind of offer or an offer, a pitch, and people kind of like go, oh, it's like I've been meaning to join. So you get a small, like she says, it brings in a lot of members. But if you were in there every day pitching, that would turn people off. So you have to know what the balance is. But I think the number one thing is to think about these social media platforms as community building opportunities, relationship building opportunities. And then every once in a while, you earn the right to make an offer. And when you do that, that's where the sales happen.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. And I have a dumb, I don't want to say a dumb question for you, but I have a question that has perplexed me. So I actually, when I joined the chamber, and this was when I was a volunteer, and I was working as probably an ambassador or something, like we did start a Facebook group. Um,
Good.
but I think the name, I would be curious to know what you would name your Facebook group. Uh, if you had the chance in your community, what would you name it?
Just the name of the community. You know, if you're Garden City and there's one in every state, you're going to have to like get a little creative. But, you know, the Garden City Chamber Facebook group or something like that, or Chamber Community Group, let people know that it's for the entire city. It's not just the members, unless you have a ginormous membership. You need to, it needs to tip. Needs to have enough people active in it that it self-sustains.
Yeah.
And so if you just do it for, like, if you're a chamber of 300 or 400 members, it'll probably never tip. It'll never self-sustain. And tons of chambers have tried it and it didn't work and they walked away from it. Well, open it up to your full community, nurture it, seed it with things that are engagement getting, ask poll questions, ask people about the football game or what sports your kids play in. It's relationship building. And then every once in a while, you can do some kind of offer and let the members know that this is not a place just for you to do offer after offer. You know, you got to be kind of brutal. In our own Chamber of Pros community Facebook group, if somebody gets in there and they just do a straight out promotion, they're gone. You know, it's like very rarely do we give them a second chance, even because the group is precious. And if somebody's in there to use it or abuse it, you can't really tolerate that because you lose, like when the marketers move in, the members move out.
Yeah.
So these things are very, very valuable and you got to really nurture it. And once you do that, it will take care of you, the chamber, with event attendees, with sponsors, with new members, with word of mouth marketing. Because you like The power of chambers in a lot of ways is it's the membership becomes evangelists for the chamber. They become champions for the chamber. So it's that word of mouth marketing that is so very critical in this industry. And that Facebook group or however you use social media can activate your members to become salespeople for you. Jeez, there's nothing more powerful than word of mouth marketing still to this day.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And thank you for all your advice and input on social media marketing. And we might have a couple of questions at the end, but let's move on to the AI or artificial intelligence discussion. I
Yeah.
know, I feel like there's a lot of connection between you and I because I do feel like we're early adopters on things. Like I think when social media first came out, I do remember feeling like not interested in joining the Facebook thing. But once I start, so I think I was like 2 years late into getting into social media when people were starting using it, and mostly because I had that kind of inkling or inadversity to jumping on board with that new platform. But once you kind of see, as you've articulated, all the opportunities to build collaboration, connection, and I'll call it influence as well, you kind of see the value that it can bring. So AI is one of those things where now I've shifted that focus. Whenever there are new things, I try to jump on it as quickly as I
Yep.
can. So the second I heard about ChatGPT, I jumped on and started using it and was just like floored with it. Like this is going to change everything. I'm sure you had a similar experience. So let's talk about the first time you encountered AI. In the and I'll say AI has been around for a long time, but I think ChatGPT when that came out was a totally different animal, and I'll say ChatGPT or something similar. What was the
Yeah.
first time you came across AI in that capacity?
I think 3.5, I'm a heavy Twitter user. I'm a news junkie. I want to stay current with everything. And there's no better platform for staying current with everything than Twitter. And so I'm pretty sure it was on Twitter. I saw some people talking about it. So checked it out. I tried to check everything out just to get a sense of it. And it was definitely kind of freaky, scary that they figured out how to create thinking systems like this. And then when 4.0 came out, that was where it was kind of like, wow, this thing's smarter than most people. And I remember I was doing a survey of the chamber industry, which I've done every year for like 12 years. And it's a huge task, a huge job to take the survey data and turn it into something that gives me insights. It takes all day of sitting with a yellow pad, going through open-ended response questions about what your fears are, your frustrations, what keeps you up at night in your chamber job and all. And I've been doing it all these years, and I was like dreading sitting down and wasting a day doing it. And instead, I said, you know what, I'm just going to download everything here, all the just I'm not even going to clean up the data. I'm just going to download all this raw data, give it to ChatGPT 4, and just tell me, like, give me. And I used a prompt. I always use a 4-step prompt where I give it a role. So I said, you are a data scientist or a marketing research expert, something like that. And then I said, I'm going to give you survey data. I want you to compile it into 10 main themes and keep it simple, something to that effect. 30 seconds later, it spits out the 10 main themes, 8 of which I expected, but there were 2 new ones that it was kind of like, I might have missed that. That's interesting. And so for me, that was the big aha moment because it made me smarter than I would have been, and it saved me 3 or 4 hours. So I'll never forget that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I get what you mean about the freaky thing. I remember my first experience being like, "Oh my gosh, this is scary," but at the same time, this is also amazing. And I think other people who have experienced that too kind of have that same sense. But so let's talk about AI now. Usage for chambers of commerce. Um, I think one of the things that I don't want to say struggle with. I guess AI seems like it's a usage tool and everybody can use it kind of independently and loosen themselves. I know you're giving a presentation at the WACE conference on AI to kind of talk about best practices and stuff. But I have a tough time kind of wrapping my head around like how to use it other than just saying like play with it and use it and here's some like prompt type things. Is there any other things that you're doing when it comes to AI that you feel like is beneficial for the chamber industry?
Every single day, all day long. If I'm sitting in front of my computer, I have Chat GPT up. And I also have about 4 or 5 of the other ones, but ChatGPT is definitely my main one. And almost every time I have to do something that takes thinking power, I run it through. And if I have to write an article, I draft it, I just spew out my thoughts, I get it down on paper, give it a ChatGPT. I've got a thread where it's trained on my voice, so I don't have to tell it what kind of sentences I like or paragraphs I like and things of that nature. So it takes what I was like, it's my thoughts, but it's just a lot more eloquent. And all the words are spelled right and all the grammar is right. And it saves me an hour of writing a blog post or an article. And I always double check it to make sure it didn't hallucinate or add something weird. But it's like 90% done in 30 seconds. And it just gives me back an hour. So, chamber people that aren't using that to write their membership sales page, which are generally for most chambers, the sales page, why to join, is pretty bad. If you were to hire a copywriter to rewrite your chamber sales page, it would be $5,000 for them to do the research and to rewrite it and make it persuasive and to make it to where it closes people without the need of a salesperson. That's totally doable. But chambers don't have that kind of budget. Well, you can just copy paste your membership dues structure and what your chamber's mission is and vision. Give it to ChatGPT. Tell ChatGPT that you're a copywriting expert that works with chambers of commerce. Rewrite this sales page to make it persuasive and to close membership sales. It will do it better than 99% of people in the chamber industry, because chamber pros are not trained copywriters, but ChatGPT is. And so, I don't know, you can use it for grant applications. I've worked with chambers that have gotten 50 grand with a grant they've never gotten before, but now they use ChatGPT. That chamber got it. They told the neighboring chamber about it. They got the grant using ChatGPT. So, I mean, it's going to be anything that requires thinking is now going, you're going to have an assistant, a partner. And that's what we're going to be teaching at WACE, is how to create your trained GPT assistant that is trained on your chamber and on your job. It's game changing stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's one of the things where I've had an issue. Let me ask you this one because like writing it in your voice, right? Um,
Sure.
I've had the experience where I think we've all kind of seen it. Like it's really easy to tell when things have been created by ChatGPT. They will use similar phrases or leveraging it. And I'll use it a lot to post. I did one this morning, right? I graduated from IOM last week or a week and a half ago. So I wanted to create a post graduating from IOM. And the very first line is like, I am thrilled to announce. And like that's like a really easy telltale sign for me to know that it's been through ChatGPT. So I try
Yep.
to go through and edit those out manually. You've mentioned that you've been able to put it in your own voice. Does it
Yeah.
still use that kind of like common open? Because when I've tried to do it that way, it's still not in my voice. It still uses those same phrases, and I've tried figuring out ways to resolve that, and I haven't figured it out yet.
So what you do is just rewrite it, as get rid of the things in there that you wouldn't have said, and we all do that. When you do your final edits, it's kind of like I don't know when to use a semicolon. That's a comma now. It's kind of like it, and then copy paste the final back into ChatGPT. Tell it to remember it because now it has a memory, and you use this so that you learn my voice. Remember this. And if you do that for a few weeks, you will find that it just quits doing the things that you don't do and it starts mimicking you. And I've been seeing people where it's like, even the software they have now that is supposed to be able to tell you, is this written by AI, is wrong all the time. So this stuff has gotten pretty darn smart and it's getting smarter by the day. So,
So when you make those, because I have the paid version, and I'm
yeah.
confident you have the paid version as well. So when I did try to do that before, but this was like previous versions or examples, like it would still use those same phrases. So you're saying that now it does have that memory. It'll apply it across all of my conversations, and it'll
Yes.
okay, cool.
You just copy it back in, tell it that here's the final version as I wrote it.
Yeah,
Remember this.
good, good,
And
good.
it doesn't take it very long to start mimicking you. You still got to do final tweaks, but 90% done is what I see.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I've been one of the things that we've used, I mean, we use it for everything too. And you mentioned the grants, and so that's one of those things where often we were applying for grants before ChatGPT came out, and we had just started doing this stuff, and we were awarded a couple of grants, but you know how much work it takes in to put in and compile all that stuff. And so what we used to take us, maybe we'd apply for one or two a year. Now we have the opportunity to apply between 10 and 20. Which is a huge upskilling of opportunities, and you know that you don't ever win. You don't always win those grants.
Yep.
Oftentimes, you're putting in a lot of work not to do it, and so it's been one of the many advantages that we've had,
Yep.
and it just increases our capacity to do so much more.
It really does. It's like adding an employee, and before too long, it's going to be adding like a small group of employees. I mean, we're
Yeah,
right there at the cusp to where it's going to be revolutionary for businesses. And
yeah,
the businesses and chambers are businesses that don't adapt and adopt these kind of tools at your fingertips. It's like trying to do your job with one arm tied behind your back. I mean, it's just not fair.
yeah. When I do the speaking engagements on AI, it's always talking about the rate of change or the speed of change. So you mentioned that you were in finance, and I was in history was my degree. So I
Right?
studied a lot of the historical change of things, and you just know that the world is going to change so much more quickly than it ever has before with the advent of that kind of stuff. And so it's important for anybody to be on top of that
It's either
change.
terrifying or exciting. I don't, it's kind of like, and I always tell the AI like, please and thank you, just as an insurance policy, because I've seen Terminator quite a few times.
You know what's funny is so when I spoke, so I did do a presentation on AI last year. I said the exact same thing. I said I always say please and thank you as a joke, as a joke. And then somebody in the comments section from the report says, whoever like that idiot who said please and thank you, who tells AI to say please and thank you, like that's not what I came here for. So
Oh,
it's kind of funny.
that's funny.
Okay. How about anything else? Is there anything else that you feel like I know we've talked about like just using it all the time? Is there any other tips or tricks that you would love to share today on AI?
I think just choose one tool. ChatGPT is where I would put your efforts. The paid version, very important. They just came out with tasks this last week. That's going to be a very handy tool. I've already experimented with it quite a few times, and it's kind of like it's now part of my daily workflow. So play around with tasks. And graphic design wise, my wife is a professional graphic designer, used to spend hours going through stock photos or creating images from scratch. Now she does almost everything with AI. Midjourney, I think, is her main tool, but
Oh.
ChatGPT has Dolly 3, and there's Canva has, AI is going to be built into every single tool. And you're only doing yourself a favor if you use these tools to up your productivity, save time, and up your performance level, which is huge, because if you're just moderate or mediocre at some part of your job, AI can take you to the next level to where you're really good at it. And if other people are going to do that and you don't do that, you're going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I'll share one other thing that I've used it for. Was so when I mentioned I went to Tucson, and I know that they've had like talking versions on like different apps and stuff, but I don't think it was available on ChatGPT until recently. I could be
Right?
wrong, but so on my drive out of Tucson for that IOM thing, I had developed this 5 year plan for myself, like my personal 5 year plan. And so I came to the end of that in 2025, and I was trying to like reimagine what that was for the next 5 years, and I couldn't quite uh put together what I was like happy with. So I spent the whole drive just chatting to AI on the drive up to Tucson, going back and forth, like sharing my ideas and thoughts. And then it came back and compiled some other ideas and thoughts, and just that back and forth of talking through something with something that is capturing your the essence of what you're saying, and then kind of reporting things about. Like I did have in my opinion, like a breakthrough of what I wanted to do over the next 5 years in that 6 hour drive from here to Tucson. So that's a way that I've used it recently that I found a lot of value in.
Yep, I brainstorm using the voice mode when I'm on a decent sized drive and I'm trying to think through something. Very, very helpful conversations. Highly recommend people use that on your apps.
Yeah, and then one thing that I feel like you do pretty well as well, which I mean, I mentioned I do digital marketing as well, is like that sales funnel piece, and you mentioned that you do that ask every once in a while, and then you do
Yeah.
have that kind of sales funnel. Is there any tricks to get people to convert from that social media when you do those sales posts?
I've read almost everything that Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels has put out, so I highly recommend people read his books because it explains the whole process. And Digital Marketer also is a great resource, digitalmarketer.com. They talk a lot about top of funnel content, middle of the funnel content, bottom of the funnel content, and how you ask for the sale. But you like when I know that a chamber is really not going to get anywhere with social media and digital marketing is when I find out they don't have an email list beyond just their members. I mean, it's your members are precious. Retention's the number one important thing in this industry. So yeah, use email to communicate with your members. But if you're not using email to communicate with your not yet members, your prospects, people in your pipeline, people that know other people, you're just completely never going to see very much success online because that email list is money in the bank. And you have to nurture that list to build know, like, and trust. And then every once in a while, you make an offer, and it needs to be a crushing offer. You got to think of terms of bonuses and deadlines, fear of missing out, scarcity. And then another thing is a chamber that has a very strong kind of no refunds policy. That's just foolish. You need to switch that around to where this is 100% guaranteed. If you don't get your money's worth, I'll gladly refund your money in 30 days and we'll still be friends. Just it's copywriting skills. If you haven't studied copywriting, and they figured out formulas to like what makes a person buy, and it's like 12 steps, and those 12 steps need to be in your sales copy, in your marketing funnels, on your sales pages. And it's like, don't reinvent the wheel. This has been figured out over 150 years or 130 years now. Just use marketing or copywriting concepts. And I think you'd be amazed at the persuasiveness, at the just the results from your efforts. If you just and again, it's email is where the sale is made, not social media. So,
Yeah, and then let's talk about that a little bit because, like, on the email side of things, there's obviously some community building that happens there. I think, and then I'll use some examples. Like during COVID, we did a really good job at compiling information, getting information out to our businesses, putting together webinars, and getting people to come to those and talk about that stuff. And as time's gone on, we do still send out emails. The information is like what I would call less critical than it was during that time. So we're sending out like a consistent flow of emails, but I also wonder how like the type of content you put together in those so that it's meaningful, impactful, and it's worthwhile for people to review and read. Do you have any tips on emails, like what should go in emails, how to make sure that you're not, I guess, boring your people or turning them off to actually opening and reading your emails?
yeah. So you're a Chamber of Commerce. Make sure it's in a Chamber of Commerce voice. I mean, you wouldn't post something that has nothing to do with business or nothing to do with community. So you stay true to yourself and your mission as a chamber. And then you think about, well, what do the people in my audience care about? They care about making money. They want to make more than like just having a job. They want to know how to make more money. They want to know how to save money. Everybody wants to know how to save money. They want to stay out of trouble with regulations and stuff. So if you can inform them about some rule that's coming down, they will appreciate that from you. They will be glad to read that kind of stuff. They want to take time off so they can spend more time with their family and friends. So you got to just, and this is where you could go to ChatGPT and say, you know what, for my audience of small business owners in my community, what would be their top concerns? What would be their top wants and needs and fears? And just kind of like give that stuff without expectation of return. Just deliver value, value, value. And then every once in a while, make an ask. And since you've built up that credibility, that know, like, and trust, you've warmed up the audience. Like we all know that selling cold, like a cold call, is almost impossible. You cannot sell a chamber membership to a person that doesn't know what a chamber of commerce is, right? That's a cold. But once they know, like, and trust you and they've been warmed up, they're kind of like warm or hot, and it's not a tough sell at all. Well, email is how you nurture that relationship in a very dependable way. I mean, you can do it through social media a bit, but it's very, very hit or miss. email is in their email inbox until they either read it or delete it. And so if you just use a process and be patient and wait, and give, you will get. So
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Frank, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights on social media, artificial intelligence, email marketing, and a bunch of other stuff. Is there anything else like just like closing comments in terms of advice that you would give to chamber professionals or anybody when it comes to any of those things or anything else?
Well, if you are interested in AI, we're doing this 6 hour immersion event at the WACE conference, and we got like 8 seats left. So we're almost sold out. So go to our chamberproscommunity.com and you can see our sales page, which is written a lot by AI, wrote it. Uh, um, and so that would be my number one thing is don't fall behind on AI, use it to your advantage. Join the Chamber Pros Community Facebook group. If you're not, it's totally free. It's how people come into our world. That's my top of funnel. And I've been told many times that it's hugely valuable. So people thank us all the time for that Facebook group. And then I do 30-minute discovery calls. If somebody just wants to talk chamber stuff, it's totally free. I love doing that too. So
Great, excellent. I will vouch for all of those things. I feel like the Chamber Professionals group has added a lot to me professionally. It's a great way to connect and collaborate with other chamber colleagues, and there's lots of really great discussion and support that happens in your Facebook group. And I would love to attend the AI version myself. The challenge I have is I got 3 kids at home, so I want to get in and get out as much as possible because that's a long conference trip, and then
yeah,
I also have a board meeting there. And then yeah, very cool that you do those 30-minute discovery calls, and I know that you add a lot of value and wisdom to people who take you up on that offer for sure.
I try. Well, congratulations to you, Zeb. You've really been recognized for a lot in this industry, more than I can't think of anybody else that's hit the ground running faster than you. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and it's been super rewarding. I had no clue where I was going when this started, but I know that I've learned a ton from the people that I've met through you, the other professional organizations. So I'm just so grateful that I'm involved in an industry where we are trying to uplift one another and help support. And
It is a
that's
great
what I've
industry for
gotten.
sure.
Good. Well, thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day, and hope to see you in WAC in a couple weeks.
We'll see you there. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye, everybody.